Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to do a fight breakdown / prediction for Deontay Wilder and his comeback fight against Robert Helenius. And if you don't know how I do this, I basically compare both guys side by side, and I just ask a few questions. And based upon the answer and the results that I get in the end, that's the guy who I'm choosing. And without further ado, let's just jump on into it. We're going to start with ring IQ. Now, neither one of these guys, to be fair, is a classic boxer. Neither one of these guys are like wizards in the ring. But I think out of the two guys, one guy has really refined what he does. Is it the prettiest? Not always. Is it the most glamorous looking? No, not always. But I give it to Deontay Wilder, and I'll tell you why. I give it to Deontay Wilder because he's really perfected what Deontay Wilder does. That knockout, that right hand, we all know what's coming, and he sets it up every single time. I mean, he's got, 40 knockouts? You know, out of what, 42 fights? 43 fights? You know what I'm saying? So, is it the prettiest? Not always. Every once in a while, it's a nice-looking knockout, like the Brazil fight. That's a nice-looking knockout. But for the most part, they can get a little sloppy. So it's Wilder, and he gets a little wild. But I will say he's perfected what he does, and he's great at what he does. And people can say, well, he's not a boxer, and he's sloppy, and he's this, and he's that. He's a perfectionist, and he's created a style that works for him and his body type that produces results. And therefore, ring IQ. He knows how to line a guy up. He knows how to set a guy up. He knows how to set a trap and then implement that shot. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, he gets what he's looking for. So ring IQ goes to Deontay Wilder. Speed. Another one for Deontay Wilder. Very seldom have you ever seen Wilder be the bigger guy. I don't think he's ever really been a bigger guy in the ring. So, yeah, speed's going to go to him. And technically, Deontay Wilder is a cruiserweight, and he's fighting with giants. You know, and if you ever needed a reason to love and respect Deontay Wilder, if for no other reason, you got to love and respect him for the fact that he's living in a land where there's all giants. And he technically, physically, isn't supposed to be there. He's supposed to be fighting in the cruiserweight division. But he's living amongst these giants, and he's been largely successful. So you got to give him the speed. Because he's a lighter guy, he moves a lot faster. You know, I mean, he doesn't even have the body type to be like a heavyweight boxer. But credit a lot of that with speed, and he has it. You know, Helenius is a bigger, more solid guy, and there's no speed really. He's a heavyweight. A lot of them are slow. Every once in a while, you run across one that's pretty fast, but Robert Helenius is not one of them. So therefore, speed goes to Deontay Wilder. Durability. Now, okay, and hear me out. I'm giving this to Deontay Wilder, and I know you're probably going to be like, well, look at the size of Helenius. Yeah, that's true, but he's been knocked out a few times. And Deontay Wilder, one of the knockouts were questionable. Okay, and the other one, honestly, I think fatigue beat up Deontay Wilder as much as Tyson Fury. So there you go with that. But when I look at Helenius, those were legit knockouts. That's number one. Number two, again, Deontay Wilder is a cruiserweight fighting in the land of giants. And he has been successful fighting in the land of giants. These guys are bigger than him. They should be able to put him down. He certainly gets hit. He's not like some elusive fighter. He's not. And yet they can't keep him, they can't put him down. You know, he's been rocked several times throughout his career, but he's only been down with Fury. I think he's been down before that as well. If you know the fight that he was actually down, I would love to know that one. I seen him down. I just don't know the guy's name. So if you could type that in and shoot me a little message, I'd love to see who it is. But I got to give it to Deontay Wilder. Again, you're a cruiserweight, you're fighting heavyweights, and you've been largely successful at it. So I got to give it to Deontay Wilder. Defense. Neither one of these guys, once again, is extremely great at defense. Both of these guys are very aggressive. Both of these guys are heavy hitters, and both of these guys like to stalk their opponents. When it comes to defense, the defense is very basic. It's very basic. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of head movement with either one of the guys. You don't see a whole lot of slipping shots with either one of the guys. Their defense is really just an offense. I would give Deontay Wilder a bit more defense because when you watch Robert Helenius, I mean, he's got these guys backpedaling so much that he doesn't need defense. So I would give it again to Deontay Wilder. Only by a slight edge. Like I said, neither one of them are actually really great at defense. But Deontay Wilder by 1 point. If it were like a 10-point system, they would both be like, I don't know, just by 1 point. Let's just put it like that. Deontay Wilder, if it's 3 points, he would only get it by 1 point, because neither one of them are perfect at it. Footwork. Now, I would actually give this to Robert Helenius. Yeah, I think he has much better footwork. I think he's a lot more planted. Again, when you look at him fight, there's no special effects or anything like that, but he is firmly planted when he fights. And Deontay Wilder tends to get a little wild, and because of that, he goes off balance a lot. And it's only by the grace of God that nobody's ever caught him while he was off balance. Because he goes off balance a lot. Sometimes it gets a little too wild and he goes off the center line. He'll overextend his punches. And, it was only Fury. Fury was the first guy to be able to capitalize on that. So there you go. I'm going to have to give that one to Robert Helenius. Strength. Another one I'm going to give to Robert Helenius. He's the bigger guy. He physically should be able to handle Deontay Wilder, and we know that in the past, Deontay Wilder's kryptonite has been guys who have gotten physical with him and have bullied him and pushed him around, again, because he's a cruiserweight. So, yeah, I would definitely give that to Robert Helenius. Last but not least, experience. Again, Deontay Wilder has more fights, so I think it's obvious when you go into the experience factor. But on top of that, we look at who these guys have fought. I think Wilder's record is a lot better than Robert Helenius. So there you go. If you're fighting Cubans, I don't care. Anybody who fights a Cuban, you got some experience under your belt. And Deontay Wilder fought a Cuban twice. And a very highly ranked Cuban, a Cuban who knows what he's doing, and he beat him twice. So there you go. I'm definitely going to go with Deontay Wilder on that. He's got more experience. Clearly he has more fights. But beyond that, who have you fought? And I think when you look at the tale of both guys, not Robert Helenius, Deontay Wilder has definitely fought the better lineup of guys. So there you go, experience. Now we're going to move into a segment that I call what they cannot do in the fight. So let me just start with Wilder. Wilder cannot wrestle or get caught in the corner. So one of the things that led Fury to have success with Wilder was he mangled him up, he roughed him up, he bullied him, he big brothered him, and he had him in the corner. Wilder is, especially with the style in which he fights, he cannot afford to be stuck in a corner. He needs space because he likes to cock that thing back and let it go. So he needs space. He also needs space to line people up. He can't afford to be caught in a corner. He can't afford to get pushed back. He can't afford to get bullied. And he can't afford to make this a telephone booth fight. If he does, he will not win. Deontay Wilder, not now, not in the past, and not in the future, is ever going to win a telephone booth fight. He has to have some space. So what he cannot do is be caught in a corner. What he cannot do is afford to wrestle. Can't do either one of those things. Helenius, he cannot go slow. Simple as that. Deontay Wilder does like a slower pace. So Helenius must not go slow. He must start off fast and he must keep a steady pace. Period. He must keep a steady pace. If he doesn't and that pace goes down, it's going to be a problem for him. Another reason why Tyson Fury was so successful against Deontay Wilder was because he made Deontay Wilder work. Deontay Wilder can get a little lazy. He can lean back on the ropes. He can get a little lazy. He can get a little tired in there. And he can take a round off. He can lean on people. Helenius needs to make him work. Helenius needs to make him work. Even if it's feints, just give him different looks. He needs to make him work. If you give him different looks, he's going to react in different ways. Ultimately, exerting energy. That's what you want to do. Deontay Wilder likes to preserve his energy because when he throws with 110%. So that's what Helenius cannot do. He cannot slow down in the pace. Whatever you start with, and hopefully you start with a fast pace, you need to keep that and be consistent. Now, this segment is what should he do? So this is what should he do. Helenius should bully Deontay Wilder. You're the bigger guy. Why not? Bully him. Look at Tyson Fury's tapes. Obviously, you're not as good a boxer as Tyson Fury, so you don't necessarily want to take that away from Tyson Fury. But what you do want to capitalize on and take away from Tyson Fury is that, okay, he was the bigger guy. He muscled around the smaller guy. Okay, make it a rough and ugly fight. Check. I can do that because I'm bigger than him. I can do that. Okay. Throw a lot of punches. Again, Deontay Wilder doesn't like to work that hard. He doesn't like a high work rate. He wants a slow and steady type of fight. Okay, that will work best for him. Why? So he can see different things and he can try to line you up. For Deontay Wilder, it's all about lining people up. So if he cannot line you up, he will not throw the shot. And Deontay Wilder, a lot of times, I probably say it's 50-50. Sometimes he'll throw a jab and that jab will have something on it. But for the most part, the other 50% of the time, he'll just throw a jab just as a rangefinder. So it won't have anything on it. Because if he can't line you up, he will not throw that other hand, which is what he wants to throw. He wants to throw that bomb. Let's see. Wilder should go to the body. That's what he should do. And he's been working with his new trainer, Malik Scott, for some time now. He's been with him for a minute now. I think 2 years now? Probably over 2 years. And in all their clips, I see those guys working up body shots. All right, he tried it for 2 minutes in, the last Fury fight. Maybe he will have more confidence in a sustained body attack moving forward. Again, you're fighting bigger guys. You need to slow them down. You also need to stop them in their tracks. And you also need to drop their hands. Now, if you can do that, well, the best way to do that is to go to the body. And if you do that, it's a lot easier for you to line people up and knock them down. Simple as that. So that's what he needs to do. And also, Deontay Wilder should angle off. Again, Robert Helenius is all straight punches. You're not going to see any hooks. Every once in a blue moon, you're going to see a shovel hook. But that shovel hook is coming from so far out that by the time it hits its target, it's almost like an upward jab, because it's not from here, it's from here. So, you need to angle off. You hit, then you move. He's only going to throw straight punches. So whatever he throws at, if he tries to counter it, is going to be air. So those are simple things for both guys. They're not hard things to implement in a camp, and they're not hard things to implement in a fight. They're simple things. I never try to make too much of anybody's fight style and say, well, you do this and do this and do this. They're simple things. Hit and angle off. And again, I've seen him working on that with Malik Scott. So just do that, and I think you will find success in the fight. Overall, who wins? I actually have Deontay Wilder. I think when I look at my list above, what I started with, he pretty much had everything in the bag, so he has more power, he has more speed, he has more ring IQ, and he has I don't want to keep calling him a new trainer, But he has Malik Scott. And I think Malik Scott has pushed him in ways that he has not been pushed in the past. I also think he's giving him tools that he has not used in the past or didn't have. I don't know. Hopefully this fight we will see more out of Wilder in terms of the weapons that he chooses in the fight. But I have Deontay Wilder winning. I definitely have a knockout because Robert Helenius is going to be right there in his face the whole time. Again, Robert Helenius is not the fastest guy in the world. You know, he's probably like one notch above Joe Joyce in the speed department. So he's not the fastest guy in the world. Robert Helenius does not move his head. He's a straight line and he stands up straight, and that's just perfect for Deontay Wilder. So overall, I got Deontay Wilder winning. I don't know exactly what round. I would predict it would be middle rounds, or maybe middle late rounds, maybe round 8, something along 7, 8, or 9. I'll say maybe 8 or 9. You know, because it's been a while since he's been in the ring. But we all got to see how he looks, you know, coming back after the Fury loss. But I feel like Robert Helenius is the perfect guy for Deontay Wilder to come back with. You need a nice big burly guy to show what you've been working on. And I think Robert Helenius is also a really big target, which works in the favor of Deontay Wilder. So overall, I have Deontay Wilder. You drop your thoughts down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe to my channel.